Welcome back to the pod. LA's on fire again.
And not in the usual way.
Trump deploys National Guard.
And Republicans have their dads back.
Yes!
Alright, so let's get into it.
L.A., the city of angels, under siege, or I don't know what else to call it, to be honest. It's definitely an interesting turn of events.
Definitely a riot.
Several. Just a little bit ago, Los Angeles mayor announces curfew as anti-ICE protests continue downtown.
Yep. And what's crazy is that they're even trying at all to make it seem like he shouldn't have sent the National Guard.
Well, it's typically a state's thing to send the National Guard, right?
But they weren't doing it, just like they didn't do enough at all, not even close, for the George Floyd protests. And half the city burned down.
Okay, well, we can definitely have a conversation about whose prerogative it is to activate parts of the military, right? Because, this goes with, maybe we'll talk about it a little bit later, but Kristi Noem mentioning bringing the National Guard into the federal fold and federalizing it. But, nobody likes to see violence in the streets, right? And obviously the folks that are out there are fighting for what they believe in. And you can disagree with what it is that they're trying to do, and obviously there's bad actors, like always, right?
Yep.
But
a lot of them.
I think the number of people out there versus the number of people that are burning cars and smashing windows is significantly less. Now, when your crowds are hundreds of thousands of people, that's still a lot of bad actors. I won't deny that. But it's very clear that a large swath of LA is not comfortable with ICE running wild in their city, right?
Well, maybe they should have cooperated.
Oh yeah, sure. I think that worked out real well for Martin Luther King and the rest of those guys back in the Black Panther days.
Oh, that's not comparable. Yeah, what's going on now?
How is that not comparable?
If people came into the country illegally, they should be deported.
Mm.
It's like we have a law. It's like they should follow it.
I'm pretty sure that there's also a law about black people not voting, and then the Black Panthers did what they did.
Yeah, but name one other country that just lets anybody they want walk into the country and then get benefits, health care, and just come in and just start integrating in without any kind of proper vetting or any process and skipping ahead in line past the people that are doing it the right way and shitting all over them.
How are they shitting all over us? Explain it.
Not us. I'm talking about the people that did it the right way. Like one of our friends that we have.
I also have friends that are undocumented. So,
yeah, technically so do I.
Explain how them purely existing within our system, contributing to it, by the way, is shitting on it.
No. They're shitting on all the people waiting in line for years doing it the right way, and they just come right in and just skip right to the top. And then it takes more time, in theory, for the other people that are doing it the right way to get in, because a lot of the same people processing certain kinds of paperwork are going to be dealing with theirs because they're already here and become a priority in a lot of senses and in a lot of different offices.
Well, I think that's a way to look at it, right? And I will agree that illegal immigration is something that needs to be handled gracefully, which that's not fucking happening. Right? They're literally taking kids out of schools, bro.
Yeah, I never said, and I never will say I agree with all of it. All unless they do every single thing that I agree with, which is probably never going to happen. I think that's just like nightmare fuel. I think don't, especially even if it's just for the optics, which would be kind of gross if that's the only reason why. But even if just for the optics, just don't do that. Don't go into the schools. Don't start grabbing children out of schools and sending them back to a different country. They don't know what they don't know what's going on.
But
I
that's
don't
what's
agree
easiest.
with that.
But that's what's easiest, and like that's what. If you're going to talk about it from an operational standpoint, why wouldn't they do what's easiest? Which is honestly the worst case scenario, right?
Well, I think that they, like I said on the last episode, I think they should be just going in and just getting new detention centers built ASAP all along the border, and or just start, well, probably more realistically utilizing spaces that are already there, buying them out, touching them up, spending 1 or 2 months cleaning them up, getting them ready, refitting them, which in 1 or 2 months you could do that with the right buildings, and there's plenty of the right buildings. And we should start giving them like a little bit more process, or just the whole thing.
A little bit more process. You mean
Not
the due process that should be happening, like them seeing a judge after they get detained?
I don't think they should get to go through like an entire trial process.
It's not an entire trial process. It's literally a lawyer that sits next to them after they've had a conversation, right? They sit before a judge. A judge goes, okay, this is the paperwork we have on you. And if it's nothing, they go, okay, do you have any paperwork? And the lawyer goes, well, maybe, give me some time. And then they find it or they don't, and then they get deported. Or not.
Yeah, and they could have that whole system set up in these detention centers.
Yeah, that's the whole system that should be happening right now.
There's too much overflow.
What do you mean there's too much overflow?
They need to get the stuff set up.
Hold
but
on.
The thing is,
let's talk about what
Joe Biden letting them in.
No. Let's go further back in time. Republicans like to talk about this all the time. Bill Clinton deporting millions of them. Well, not millions. 1 million and some change, right? How did Bill Clinton manage to deport all of those people with due process?
Well,
it's like the system was in place.
What was that? 3 million?
No.
That's the number I think I remember.
No, it's 1.2.
Okay, so what's 1.2 million compared to possibly upwards of 20 million?
That you're still not doing the due process for the hundreds of thousands that have been affected now. So you're not even getting close to Bill Clinton numbers, and you're already fucking it up.
Yeah, but again, too, no due process coming in.
That doesn't change the fact that they're in the United States. That's the fact that makes them eligible for due process. It's their right as human beings enumerated in the Constitution. I'm going to say this a lot.
I love the Constitution too. That's why I don't think. Let me make this very clear. I don't think we should be rounding them up, putting them on a bus, sending them straight back, or an airplane, or a jet, or a boat. I think there should be a proper amount of process. But the thing is, let's be real here. It wouldn't matter how they were doing it, or if they improve, or if 5 months from now everything's fine and dandy. They're still your side, and the leftist corporate media is still all going to smear.
Most corporate media are owned by right-wing people. You can go look it up.
Okay, well then why do a majority of major outlets spout out leftist propaganda?
It's almost like that if you went to college for a journalism degree or mass market degree, that you're educated and have empathy. But we can get into that later.
You mean brainwashed by libtard professors?
Oh, was I brainwashed by libtard professors, or did I just see the real world because I was paid to look at stuff?
Were you a Republican before or after college?
I didn't go to college. I have my welding certificate.
Do you hang out with a lot of college professors off the clock?
No, I hang out with you, Ben.
Oh. Well, when I first met you, I was a Democrat, and you were a Republican.
Sure was.
And it's like, is there a term for like the yin and the yang flipping?
I was literally telling a friend about this dynamic that we have, about how you saw the corruption within the Democratic Party firsthand, and it just snapped, and you went the other way. Versus, I saw the humanity that was being affected by government and became a Democrat.
Hopefully one that will save the party, because I would vote for you, Kenny. I would vote for you, and I can't say that about many Democrats at all right now. And I never just vote red all the way down, and I never voted blue all the way down. I vote for who I genuinely want, and if you were on the ticket, I would vote for you with no hesitation. But unfortunately, people like you that I feel that way about in the Democratic Party is becoming so insanely few and far between.
I think there's a difference, and here's another problem that I have with equating what's happening in LA to the Democrat Party. Like, sure, Gavin Newsom is in charge and may or may not have dropped the ball on keeping this thing under control. Like, I'll give you that one, right?
Bro,
But
he,
but the people on the ground aren't Democrats. They're just regular people who were slighted by the government. That's why they're on the street. Like, that's why they're there.
in
They're not.
their new Adidas,
Yeah, I don't.
Nikes.
Hold on. Have you've been to LA? You know what the culture's like. It's very
Terrifying.
no. It's very consumerist. Is where I'm getting at. You got to have the new J's. You got to look fresh.
Bro, I just wanted to survive.
Just because you're throwing bricks at cops doesn't mean you can't look good.
I didn't feel safe anywhere.
I felt fine. I don't know what the difference between us is.
I was
Can you
literally
tell? Can you tell us, comment?
I was followed multiple times. Couldn't even walk down the street before you'd realize you're in somebody's territory because some kid would like emerge from somebody's basement somewhere, pale as the moon.
I've been to LA multiple times and I've never had this
They
experience.
just start following you, and they inch closer and closer, making it clear, like, hey, you better keep walking. And then I sat down in a hole-in-the-wall Chinese restaurant with, like, so tiny. It only had, like, 4 tables, like, 2 chairs on either side in it. And it was pretty poppin', not, like, super busy, but, like, there's at least 1 or 2 people in line at the register the whole time. We're sitting down eating. Somebody starts pacing back and forth in front of the door to the restaurant. I just knew something was off the first time I saw him, because also it was just weird. Obviously, some tweaked out guy who is just on a mission. Who knows if even he knew what mission that was? Past the entrance, I'm facing towards the door, and my friend I'm with is facing towards me, and I'm like, "Hey, man, there's some weird looking guy, obviously on drugs, just glided past the door on his feet." Walking like he has Heelys on, but there's no wheels. and he knew that my instinct on that stuff was good, so he was like, okay. And then all of a sudden, like 20 seconds later,
That's not.
and then he does it again. And
That
again,
story's not
and again, and then he
unique.
comes in.
That story's
And
not
he
new,
just stops
unique
right
to
next
LA
to
though.
me. No, this is unique to LA. He
No.
just stops right next to me and just stands there. I mean, literally so close, he could be next to, if you were there with us right now, you wouldn't even be touching him. He was that close to me. And just standing there for like 2 minutes. And I'm just sitting there ready to just fight this guy. I'm like, what is he going to do? Is he going to pull out a knife or a gun? What's going to happen? And everybody in the restaurant just went quiet. Everybody's just like trying to like play it cool and trying not to look directly at him. Everything stops. For like 2 whole minutes, felt like an eternity. And then he just turns around and walks away. And we call an Uber immediately.
So this is what's classically known as an anecdote. And again, not unique to LA. Like, this stuff happens all the time with a sufficiently large city that has substance abuse. I mean, that's just what happens. Like, you have lack of support systems because the place is just too big to help everybody. We have it here.
It's almost like Democrat policies turn
Don't
everything
even.
to...
No. Don't
It's
even.
true.
What do you
It's
mean?
So true.
The place that we live is squarely red, and we have the highest level of homelessness in the state, like per capita. What are you talking about?
Well, I didn't know that.
What do you mean you didn't know that? You never walked down the street? Oh, that's right. You don't live here in the part of town where it's a problem. I do.
I'm sheltered.
Yeah, this kind of sounds like it.
Well, no, I actually have given them plenty of money before. When they actually looked...
You're not supposed to do that.
When they looked legitimately homeless and in trouble for, like, legitimate reasons, which it used to be most of the homeless people on the street, like, 5-10 years ago. Now, like, almost every single one I see looks like they're trying to get drug money.
Anyway, back to L.A. Right? That's my point being is that the folks that are out there on the streets are regular people, right? They're not paid actors. They're not.
Some are.
What do you mean? Why would you pay anybody to show up to a place that already has hundreds of thousands of people?
Some of the people that are handing out the chunks of concrete, they're busting out of the ground, and some of the people that are immediately like forming the very beginnings of the lines to like encourage other people to get in line and grab these, start throwing them. People handing out helmets, shields. I think
Okay.
in some cases some batons.
So I'm gonna do two things here, right?
The Mexican flags
Hold
were
on.
being handed out too. It looks like there's somebody has a lead on that too.
I'm going to do two things here, right? I'm going to steel man your argument and say that maybe that there are paid people that are agitating this crowd to an ends of what? Who would be willing to pay money to make the city of LA look bad?
Pretty much anybody that supports the optics this is creating for whatever reasons that doesn't actually live in the city and doesn't give a fuck what happens to them.
It doesn't sound like a thing that a Democrat would do.
Yes, it does.
What are you talking about? This is a huge PR nightmare. We already have a branding problem with other DNC level things.
Yep.
Newsom saying, "Come arrest me," is just another thing of theater that we have to deal with when it comes to trying to have everyday conversations with people.
That's why we need less Newsoms and more Kennys.
At the end of the day, right, if there is somebody that's getting paid to make this whole thing look bad, it's not in good faith and shouldn't be taken seriously, right? Like, and now I'm going to straw man it. Why would anyone pay to do that when there's already people that are primed to do it anyway? You don't have to light a tinderbox that's already flaming because of what ICE has done. Just for context, he's not laughing at the argument. He literally committed a biological warfare war crime.
I couldn't hold it anymore. He said, light a tinderbox.
Yeah, I wish I had a match right now.
So, you know, we're lit on fire like LA is right now.
So that kind of leads me into, the next part about it, right? Like, the LAPD has a long history of riot busting, right? They're well-trained guys, and they're having a problem with this. Trump deploys the National Guard. They're having problems with it. I don't know why. I mean, it seems like there's some sort of leadership that's allowing these things to go out of control. This is my conspiracy theory, right? Is that someone has allowed it to get whipped up out of control to make Gavin Newsom look bad and the party look bad. And then Trump deploys the Marines, right? And the Marines are to protect the federal agents while they're out doing their arrests, which makes sense, right? Like, ICE agents are federal employees. They should get federal protections. That just makes sense to me. Obviously, it looks bad, but it's not something that California hasn't had to deal with before.
Yeah, and that's the main thing that I've been thinking about is the most simple way that I think you can look at this that leans towards my side is that there are federal workers that need to be physically protected, obviously, by some of these people, the bad actors. Not say, I think, and this should be obvious to anybody, that a clear majority of the people that are actually genuinely protesting, that don't want to riot, a clear majority are those people, and there's a lot of bad actors, and I think some of them genuinely are paid by whatever organizations, maybe not directly to incite violence, but given the tools and a wink, wink, nod, nod, because obviously, like, you don't want to paper trail that. There's not going to be like direct. Yeah, that's besides the point. A clear majority of the people just wanted to actually protest and just chill out and basically be like at a parade for 3 days, with everybody they agree with and get to support something they think that
I think
is
they're.
good. But
I think you're discounting that there is genuine anger. There's people that, especially like speakers and organizers, that have had family members, you know, detained from their homes, from their schools, from their jobs, and that's why they're there, right? And
yeah,
that would genuinely piss people off, right?
and they don't think protesting is enough, and they want to send a clear message: hey, we're willing to do whatever it takes to keep our family here.
Right.
Yeah,
And
but what I was getting to, thanks for saving me from that tangent. The main point is getting to, the most simple way to look at this is those federal workers at the ICE buildings and anyone else that would have been targeted. Gavin Newsom has shown, and the mayor of LA, that they are not going to protect them.
they
Yeah,
don't. They don't have a duty to.
They set a precedent.
They don't have a duty to.
Well, so then we send in the National Guard to only protect the federal buildings and federal workers. That is a fact.
Well,
And
no,
then they start raising a big stink about it
other
just
way-
to create optics.
No.
The other
So
way.
the National Guard is to support LAPD in trying to prevent violence, right? And that still spun out of control, right? Then the Marines get sent in to protect federal assets.
Okay, but yeah, still the same thing though is, like, there is every right to send these people in, and Trump just today went on Fox News and showed that Gavin Newsom was lying. He's been going around saying, for I think a couple days now, that Trump never called him to warn him that he was going to send them in. And Trump showed the actual call records supported by the actual cellular company. This is the thing. Went on Fox News and actually showed the actual call with Gavin. There's two of them. One lasted 6 seconds, which probably said, hey, I'll call you right back. The second one, right after, lasted just under 17 minutes. And it's an official fact check. This is confirmed that the call really did happen. And he was lying and saying that Trump never called him.
Trump brings receipts. He called Newsom amid L.A. riots.
Yep.
All right, let's try to find something that isn't Fox News.
How do you do that?
With Ground News, which isn't sponsored. It's just a really incredible tool that we use here on the show.
We?
Yeah.
I just use Fox. Yep.
I mean, not surprised. No, not true. You've used it on my computer.
Yeah, Ground News is super dope. Please sponsor us.
All right.
No, I make myself watch CNN and MSNBC and
I don't watch those
ABC.
guys either. I don't, to be honest. And it's something about, like, again, because I worked in the industry, I know all these companies are owned by, like, independent businessmen that are only doing things that make it so they can continue make money, or are owned by Republicans and funnel money from the news industry into Republican PACs, like Sinclair Broadcasting.
No, I look at the independent ones too. I look at the corporate. I look at the independent. I look at the in-betweens. I look at all of them. Brian Tyler Cohen. I look at Stephen Colbert. I look at Steven Crowder. Well, not really anymore since that drama with him probably hitting his wife.
Yeah.
No, that was awkward. But before that, and then, Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, Michael Knowles. I also go look at Sam Cedar sometimes from the Minority Report.
So, Ground News has 11 sources on it. It's kind of balanced. There's two sources on the right, two sources on the left, one in the center. But there's no factuality rating, which is a feature. And yeah, I think it's just it hasn't been corroborated. So, not that I don't believe Donald Trump when he shows his camera to the reporter, or phone to the reporters on camera. But like, I don't know. Did AT&T doctor it up so they can get favorable FCC licensing? I have no idea.
I mean, you just never know sometimes. That's what makes it so difficult.
Or the technology didn't even work. Let's benefit of the doubt. Trump did call him
And left a 16-minute voicemail.
and it never rang through to the phone.
Oh. No, because it wouldn't have that timestamp.
On Trump's side, it would.
No.
Yeah. It's literally happened to me where I've called my wife, right? And I go to text her, like, hey, why aren't you answering? He's like, what are you talking about? You didn't call me. And then I screenshot my phone. It's got a record, and hers doesn't.
Yeah, but does it show how long the call lasted
Yeah.
when she didn't answer?
Yeah. All of them do that these days, right?
Huh.
All of them do that.
Let's see. And that's the one that didn't answer?
No, that hasn't happened recently. But what I'm saying is, no matter what happens, that's the record that gets put down.
It says how long it was?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. Okay, so it's technically possible that wasn't true, but it probably was.
And that's me steelmanning it, right?
Yeah, but I know that you're not the biggest fan of Gavin Newsom yourself.
I'm definitely not, right?
So it's it's one of Trump's nicknames that actually aren't like just kind of like over the top, just silly stupid. It's just actually perfect. Gavin Newscum. He is so scummy. He's such a scummy guy.
I've said this many times before, and I'll say it again. Any place where a particular party, organization, or whatever has a monopoly on control, corruption breeds. And that's true in, Arkansas. That's true in California, West Virginia, Washington, D.C., everywhere. Power breeds corruption.
Yeah, and that man has just been around too much power, and he's just, you can just tell he looks like what you'd imagine when you hear the word snake oil salesman.
No,
Like,
that's Trump.
No, I mean like sleazy man crawling through the desert. Like
Yeah, that's Trump.
No.
Yeah.
No.
I can agree that Gavin Newsom is a sleazy guy and probably has done things that most people would regret. I don't know what Gavin Newsom regrets. But everything that you just said about Gavin Newsom, yes, and Trump.
Trump in the 80s and 90s, 2000, early.
Trump right now.
No, he's saving our country. He's saving us, Kenny. Soon we'll all be free.
Some more free than others.
Especially Elon, now that he's made up to Daddy Trump.
Oh my gosh, their breakup. The fact that we recorded last week's episode, like right after Trump and Elon started their spat.
Yep.
And we just went with it. But so much happened so fast, and now it's just over. It's crazy how you can go from calling somebody a pedophile on the Epstein list to like, yeah, I mean, I'd go work for him again.
Yeah, it's just it escalated so fast, and there was no reason for it to escalate that far.
Imagine if
Publicly.
Trump had actually followed through on terminating contracts. NASA would be fucked.
Did you see what Steve Bannon was saying?
To deport him?
Yeah, because he's on the H-1B visa, so they can.
How is he still on an H-1B visa?
That's I didn't confirm that, but I saw it, and nobody disagreeing with it somewhere online, which I know isn't the best, but I thought that's why he was defending the H-1B visa so hard towards, like, it was like a week or two after inauguration.
No, it was the other way around.
No, Elon was defending them. Yeah, like hardcore. He was pissed. It was like the first time he like spatted with MAGA. Because like most of the MAGA base was like, we need to just simmer down on all immigration, including like letting less people come in and take our jobs. And Elon was like, no, that's how I got here. That's stupid.
I could have swore it was Elon complaining about Indian H-1B visas
He was
coming in tech.
He was defending them, saying we want all the best brains here, and that's how I came here. 100% sure.
I know it's a common thing for tech bros out there in Silicon Valley to shit on H-1B people, right? Because it makes the market more competitive. Like, you can't just be a lazy coder if, somebody with drive from East Asia wants to come over here and have a better life.
Yep. Even worse, you're competing with people that want it more than you do because you're spoiled and grew up here.
Well, ish, right? And the tech industry, and this is somewhat from a barely inside the circle perspective, right? The tech industry relies on underpaying these H-1B visas so much. And they outperform our American coders hand over fist because they've got the drive. Versus the American coders, you're paying, well into the six figures for something that ChatGPT wrote. And, that's just what it is.
True.
And,
True.
if it is true that Musk defended H-1B visas, guys, it's nice that somebody's, got the bag and didn't close the door behind him on that aspect, but he very much so takes advantage of people on H-1Bs just the same as the rest of them, right? SpaceX, Tesla, full of folks from Asia getting underpaid what they're worth.
Oh yeah, it saves them tons of money while also getting good work.
Which, goes back to immigration, right? There's a big argument, and this is something that I think that folks in history try to forget, that, a huge talking point of labor way back in the day, was immigrant labor suppressing wages. And that's somewhat still true. So
There's a fine balance, with everything else. It's never just one or the other. It's there's a happy medium. There's a point in the middle where it's no longer too much or too little, to where we're getting the most benefit with the least hurt, and them too.
I also think that Republicans tend to forget about how the agriculture industry used to work back before we had a closed border policy before Reagan, which was immigrant workers would come up from the South to do the agricultural labor, get their paychecks, and then go home and freely, right? So you didn't have a standing population of immigrants in the United States because they knew that they could go home and come back easily. Do you think that, if that were still the case, A, would Mexico still be as bad as it is because their best and brightest and most hardworking are trying to come to the United States? And then B, do you think people would have problems like they keep saying they have with immigrants in their communities if those immigrants could live in their country of origin, being able to move it back and forth across the border as they will?
Well, you can thank communism. Excuse me. You can thank communism for that.
What are you talking about?
Border closed. No, I don't know. I was trying to fire you up there. I have no idea the actual tipping point that made Reagan decide to switch to a closed border policy, but
It was labor. I'm pretty sure it was the unions. I'll have to do more research on it, but I'm pretty sure.
Just to, boost American labor.
Well, that, and because the unions couldn't demand higher wages and better benefits if there was free-flowing immigrant labor, right?
Yeah, that's what's tough too, is because, especially my fiance currently right now lives in Honduras. I've talked to and through her know plenty of people that are here legally right now. Not that I've met them.
I know illegal immigrants.
Yeah,
You're safe. You're fine.
it's
Sort
I
of.
have empathy for them, and I know very personally that most of them are not criminals. They just want to live here, work here, and build a family here, just like we do. And that's awesome. I love that people want to come here. I think lots of people should come here, but there's a process. Like we can't just let everybody in, or everybody would lose what makes this country so great.
Million subscriber special. Ben goes through the immigration process.
Fuck.
Yeah, you already know it's a nightmare.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's already frustrating enough just trying to do a K-1 visa.
Anytime that you have a sufficiently large obstacle, you're going to have a black market to get around it. Like that's the way economics works, and that's socially and fiscally.
Yeah. So she's very happy. She listened to me because I was fighting with her back and forth for 2 or 3 months leading up to the election. Is she was getting too tired of like waiting, trying to like do all the paperwork and stuff, and just this sounded like so much work. She's just kept telling me she's gonna get on the next convoy up here. She's just gonna come up legally, and I kept telling her, no, you can't. Trump's going to win the election, and you're gonna get sent back, and then you can get penalized, or something could happen to where like you can't even apply to come here with me for a 2 or 3 or 4 years, something like that.
Would you turn your fiance in?
Yes.
You heard it here, folks.
No, of course I
Ben's a
would.
snitch.
No, absolutely, I would not, because it's just like
It's almost like it's a complex socioeconomic issue that like there isn't an easy answer. It's obviously, you know, people have opinions about it and people's lives are being impacted on both sides. Obviously, one side more than the other, right? One side has to deal with the economics and social aspects of new neighbors and a terrible economy that everybody's just trying to live in, and they think the solution is deporting immigrants. And the other side is, well, getting deported and having their whole life uprooted.
well, the biggest worry for me, and I think most people, because his poll numbers are only going up still today, even on immigration, even broken down categorizations and aspects of his immigration policy,
As somebody
it's still going up, and it's positive.
As somebody
right now.
who participates in polls, you have to understand that it takes a certain kind of person to want to participate in a poll.
Yeah, usually Democrats.
No, I think
Yeah.
I think it's people that are involved in politics,
Well, explain
which
the last few election cycles then.
which neglects the middle of the road voter, which is exactly what I was alluding to, that the Democratic Party seemed to ignore, right?
Remember when that lady
Because
That lady.
because average folks don't pay attention to polls and they don't answer surveys. They ain't got time for it.
No, I'd say the average person pays at least a little bit of attention to polls, even if it's loosely,
No.
but not participate.
Do you know how many people, and I'm sure you do, let me remind you about how many times you would go up to a door during the election cycle and they're like, oh, there's an election happening?
True.
Who should I vote for?
True.
Thousands of people, bro.
Sure, okay, maybe not the average person.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, it's one of those things.
And it's hard to think about. Like, nobody wants to think about themselves as above average in a thing, but me and you are above averagely aware.
That is true. I mean, it makes obvious sense too with their backgrounds, but sometimes it's hard to remind yourself that most people didn't work on campaigns.
But also, again, nobody has time for that. People are putting food on their table, spending time with their family, trying to make ends meet, you know?
Yeah, it looks like it's going to get a lot easier for him, thank God.
I don't think so.
Well, yeah, Trump's president now. We're going to have money again.
based on the vibes.
Everything.
There it was.
Because
I said it last podcast too. MAGA is just completely based on vibes.
vibes, bro. Oh wait. Okay.
Yeah, I was asking for what policies do you think are going to drive down inflation or make home prices more affordable?
Drill, baby, drill.
There's only so much oil, and also the kind of oil that we produce in the United States isn't the kind of oil that is for cars and boats and stuff.
I'll put it in my car. Trump gives it to me. No, we are going to have production of fuel to be used by transport and semis.
The kind of fuel that the Americas produce is not that kind. It's not for gasoline.
You're saying we don't make any of it?
It's not for diesel. We don't make nearly enough.
Because of Biden?
No, because of literally geographics, like the kind of oil that you need to make diesel and gasoline.
I feel like we definitely got a whole bunch of it in Alaska.
No.
And off pretty much all of our coasts, which we have a lot. We were at one point in the recent years of history, very recently, the number one oil producers in the world. We have tons of everything. Tons of it.
I think we have enough to make us forget that it's finite.
Yeah, but let's get it out of the ground, reduce the cost of transporting everything all over the country, and that brings down the price of everything.
Until it doesn't, and then it's gone.
Drill, baby, drill.
Bro, and I'm not saying that I'm against fossil fuels. It's definitely a stepping stone in technology that we need as a species. But using resources irresponsibly leads you to uncomfortable outcomes. Just like with the national debt, I'm going to make a very poignant comparison here. If you start hurtling over a cliff, what do? You hit the brakes. There's only so much money. There's only so much oil.
See, and that's why I sided completely with Elon when he came out and said, hey, what the fuck is this bill?
But back to drill, baby, drill, making the economy better. Yeah, until it doesn't. And you're irresponsibly using a natural resource before we have the technology to get off of it. Or we can trim back the subsidies, save the American taxpayer some money by trimming back subsidies for Exxon, and then...
That was only in the first term with Rex Tillerson as the head of the EPA.
What are you talking about? There's oil subsidies all over the place. There's corn subsidies right now.
I was giving you an easy one there. In his first term, his cabinet choices were absolutely horrendous. He literally put an oil tycoon as the head of the Environmental Protection Agency.
Well...
Remember?
It's not normally that egregious, but that shit happens all the time.
Yeah, but that's besides the point. I just wanted to give you a fun throwback where Donald Trump did something stupid. You
mean did something so that he could get paid, and he's really mad that you paid attention enough?
No, I think he just clearly learned a lot from the first term. Had a lot of time to think on it with Biden stealing the election.
I want CoffeeZilla to break down the Trump coin wallet to see who's putting money into it. And if Rex Tillerman is found buying millions of dollars of Trump coin before he gets announced as the pick for the EPA, I swear to God. And you cannot convince me that Trump coin isn't just an easy way to pay for stuff that the president or his administration will do for you.
Pretty smart, huh? Yeah, the point of getting...
That's called bribery, which is illegal.
No, it's crypto. Anyways, what I was getting at was to close off what we were talking about earlier with needing to switch off oil. We only have to be able to find enough oil to last another 2.5 years before AI figures out how to give us a fifth-gen fifth-gen nuclear power plant. And then we're fine.
Also, a finite resource.
Asteroids. AI.
And that's how you get space slaves.
Oh, space communism.
No, it was first space slaves and then space communism. Didn't you read The Expanse?
No, I watched first and second episode of the fourth season, and then I stopped watching it.
Mm.
Kind of like what I did with Game of Thrones. I watched the first episode of the first season, and then I watched the entire sixth season, and then I didn't watch any more.
Oh my god. I'm sorry.
No, I won because I didn't see the supposedly terrible ending. I think it just ended where I stopped watching it.
You saw the beginning of the end.
No, I just saw everything that mattered on accident too. I didn't even try to do that way. It just happened. It's a long story. Yeah, I feel really satisfied all the way from start to finish.
I think that I don't know what I think. I think this podcast is over.
Oh, I think this podcast is over too. So why don't you hit that like and subscribe and put a comment about space communism, and we'll discuss it in the next pod.
Or space slavery.
Or how one leads into the other. And also, let us know what you think about the L.A. riots, whether you think they're protests or riots. What do we get to call them? I call them riots.
I think they're a little bit of both.
I got Fox News to change the video title, and I'll show you proof on this pod. One last treat before we go. I was bragging about it to my parents.
Are you about to show me that you have, that you have DM'd Fox News enough that they pay attention to you?
No, I got a top comment on their video.
Change the title. They aren't protesters.
Yeah, you see the title of the video up
Yep.
there. They actually changed it. Yeah, I got a top comment. That's a screenshot of it.
Of course.
Yep.
I'm really happy I didn't see anything else in your photos when I accidentally scrolled.
Yeah, I got worried about that. Well,
anyway, that's this week's episode of the Ken and Ben Show. If you have topics that you want us to cover, or if you just want to call us names, do that in the comments section. I'm Ken, he's Ben.
And it's awesome to be with you again. We'll see you on the next one.
Bye.